It's so great to speak with you. We spoke a long time ago on your podcast, and that was really fun. And then I tucked it away because I'm obsessed with hypnosis for a variety of reasons. I am obsessed with getting to the bottom of what's causing all our problems in menopause that aren't hormones. And I know that you're right there with me in that space. So yeah. So first of all, when you gave me your bio, you said you work with women who sense that menopause is doing something deeper than disrupting hormones. And I just love that sentence because the world we're living in right now, we have a very loud group and narrative that are like, it's your hormones, fix your hormones. You see them in the comments, just get yourself hormone therapy. And I loved the sense that's something deeper. So can you just tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's that spidey sense, isn't it? It's like it's like this sense that it's more than just hormones. So yes, hormones play a part and they're going up and down and our sleep's affected and we're more anxious and we're shouting at our partner and we've got, having meltdowns or whatever. But it is this inner sense. It's like there's something inside of us that's depending on what end of the spectrum you're on, it's either whispering or it's yelling at you. Like, am I allowed to swear on this podcast?
Yeah. Swear away.
Thank you. And depending on how much inner work you've already done, you might be more sensitized to that, or you might be less sensitized to it. We don't know. Like sometimes menopause is the catalyst where the volcano just erupts and everything comes to the surface. So it really is such a catalytic, is that the right word? Catalytic time where whatever is kind of bubbling underneath just starts to become more sensitive, and we start to become more sensitive, whether we know it or not, whether we go to hormones as a first port of call, or whether we just dive into the deep work, we are becoming more sensitive. And hormones can be part of that story. But, I'm a Sagittarius, right? I'm a deep person. I've always been a deep person. My mum, love her to bits, but she's always said to me, I think maybe you're overthinking it. Like, yeah, right. Okay. That's what my brain does. Like my brain goes there. So, I think some of us are probably more predisposed to feeling that there is something deeper under the surface. And some of us maybe not so much, but, maybe the cage is rattled by those hormonal shifts more than perhaps we were expecting. So, yeah, I really just think it depends on who you are. I think it's so contextual. If your life is okay, if you've got good financial stability, if your relationships are stable, your kids are all really, really happy, then maybe you won't feel it as much. But if some of those external situations are a little bit tumultuous, then maybe you are going to feel it a bit more as well. It's so nuanced. And it's so context dependent. Also, the quality of our childhoods that we've had as well, that's really going to play into how we experience the menopause transition as well. I think this is where perhaps, and I might be going off on a tangent, but where medicine isn't always the appropriate world, isn't always the appropriate paradigm, because they take their data from population level, and average it. And so when there's so many moving parts to a person's story, you're not going to fit in with those averages necessarily. So that's where I think many women are left all at sea thinking, God, where do I turn? And the medical world isn't answering my questions. And perhaps they don't even realize that there is something else underneath the surface that needs looking at. If you've never had therapy before, why would you even think that is relevant in menopause?
Well, there's a lot of people walking around, and I was one of them, who think it's just their normal to have a constant dissonance, a very angry voice in their head, to have, things poking from their subconscious that they push away. Like, there's a lot of people walking around who think that that's just what life is like, and it takes something. Like, I remember right before I came to Abu Dhabi, I was going on a ski trip with my friend who was 10 years younger and very wise. And I was explaining something about a dating or a guy, and I guess just my own inner psyche was coming out, my lack of belief in myself, or maybe my belief that there's something inherently wrong with me that I had at the time. And I remember her saying, how long have you been like this? And we were driving and it was dark and it was like this lightning bolt, like that. What do you mean like this? Like, so you're not like this. So this isn't how everyone is.
Yeah. So this isn't normal.
Yeah, basically. But she said it in I'm so grateful to her for it. But I'm 55, so painstakingly, laboriously forced by external forces to work with this stuff. I never got married and had kids. So many women are just head down dealing with stuff, right? And I don't even know that they have the time to have the sense. But in the years, in looking back, starting in 40, I think it's like we come into it carrying whatever we carry. We come into it with our bag or our heavy duffel bag. And I talk about perimenopause being like when the tide goes out and leaves the garbage on the beach and you have to kind of run around or take your time and go and clean it up, whatever it may be.
Yeah, it's a really good metaphor, actually. Yeah, so true. I see it it's like a truth serum. You've probably heard that expression before. It's like being injected with a truth serum. And they say that the premenstrual phase is like a little window into what your perimenopause phase is going to be like. And I can absolutely attest to that. I mean, that was my truth when I look at my premenstrual phase. There was resentment, there was anger, there was being hypervigilant and hyper aware of everything, like a kind of hot nut. It felt like a bee sting, it felt like an angry wasp going around. And then perimenopause hit, and it was just like that on steroids. Thankfully, I'm post-menopause now since 2023, and everything has leveled out so much more. But I do attest that to doing a lot of inner work, squirreling away, saying no to a lot of social events, quitting alcohol, really cleaning up my diet, cleaning up my routines, cleaning up my friendship circles, cleaning up my sleep routine, literally everything. And it didn't all happen at once. It was like on and off, on and off, on and off over a period of like 10 years. So there was a lot of trash on my beach that I was having to go out and pick it up. And some days I couldn't be bothered, and some days it was just stuff my face with cake because that's what I needed to do in that moment, or just binge watch Netflix to escape. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think what I see a lot of when I do actually start working with people on the deeper level is the patterns that I see is a lot of self-blame, a lot of self-responsibility, a lot of emotional baggage, mental weight, and thinking and believing that it's all my fault and that I'm broken. But actually, when you look at the environment that you've been trying to operate in, and this is obviously a whole other talk that we can get into, like the climate that you're trying to operate in is not conducive to you thriving, so no wonder first of all you believe it's you. It might be a few habits that you need to tweak, it might also be a mindset that you need to shift, but it also might just be recognition and a validation of the crap that you've had to hold. And now, can we just not hold it anymore, please? Can we just give it back to whoever it belongs to, whether it's the system or the partner that's not functioning or the kids that you've been enabling? I don't have children like you, so when I talk about parenting, I'm like, I say that with a caveat. I don't have them either. No, that's careful.
Me too. Yeah, me too. I can imagine what it's like, but I haven't had to deal with it. It's one of the reasons I started Hot Flash, because I thought, well, my gosh, if I've had such a hard time, how the heck is anyone going to do this with kids? At least I'll take my, energy and time and put it into this. I mean, speaking of things I carried, that's one of the things I carried, was that I'm not a mother, and I didn't, my time was a bit frivolous and not taken up with the importance of childbearing. That's just one of the things that you carry that you don't even know you're carrying.
Yeah, there's so much invisible stuff.
Yeah.
The invisibility, I mean, the self-gaslighting, the self-bypassing, the denial, the level of denial that I see. I mean, there's levels of denial. I mean,
okay, I want to know about all this. Yeah, tell me about this denial.
Can be quite subtle. Yeah, I mean, these levels of denial can be quite subtle, like not even realizing that you're carrying a wound of not having children, or I mean, the high level denial, I suppose, is like denying that there is an emotional piece to menopause and that it's all hormones. You see that a lot in some of the Instagram spaces that shall not be named, but you and I both know. You can name it if you want.
It's very, very obvious, and people have gotten very, very famous without acknowledging this as anything but a physical transition. It's quite, so no wonder people are doing that. I mean, I know that you believe it's more than that because you're working with women every day, but first of all, denying that denying that there's anything more to it, how does that damage people, do you think?
I'm just writing down another thought that I had actually. Let me just write that down.
I love it.
Well, I think in a way, to me, it feels like it's outsourcing my power. If I think that it's just hormones and then I go and get HR, I tweak the dose. Maybe I try bios, maybe I try, whatever, all the doses, and then it's not working. And I still feel anxious and my sleep's still crap and I'm still raging at my husband or whatever. And I'm still looking outside of myself for something. And those things can be helpful. I'm not saying they're not. I'm on HRT and it's helpful, but it's not the whole story. To me, it doesn't make sense to constantly outsource my power to a medical paradigm, because I know how powerful we are as humans. I know how our brains can predict and make things seem very real. Like if you think about a symptom enough, if you focus on having a symptom enough, you can create that. I mean, that's not me being controversial. That's like the placebo effect, which is well documented, scientifically established that works. What you focus on grows. So there's that, but also another level of denial is my trauma wasn't that bad. I don't have any trauma. My childhood wasn't that bad. I had a happy childhood.
Wow, this is a big one. Like I started saying you didn't have to, I don't think this is appropriate that I say this, but I covered a news story when I was just starting out in journalism where there were these kids chained to radiators and in cages. It was awful in the country, and I've never forgotten it. It was traumatic itself. But then I just, I never thought I had trauma because that's not that. And so I started saying you don't have to have been chained to a radiator, and I've got to stop saying it because I don't think anyone knows what I'm talking about. But I think that's really prevalent, right? I had a happy childhood. I was taken care of. I was warm. I had clothes. Can you expand on that a little bit? Because that takes a lot to unpack.
Honestly, it is huge. And so I'll do a consultation with someone and they'll be presenting with certain presenting problems. So you've got these levels of presenting problems. Let's take anxiety. And then I'll ask them how they maintain that anxiety, like what thought loops do they get into? And then we'll look at vulnerabilities, like what makes you more vulnerable to anxiety? Because otherwise, if we're just focusing on the habit of anxiety, we're not really going to what set you up to be an anxious person in the first place. Yeah. So, and then I'll ask questions like, how did your family deal with stress? How did they deal with emotions when you were sad or disappointed? How did they deal with that? Were you allowed to have your own opinion about things? Was the environment predictable or was it unpredictable? And then when you ask these subtle questions about attachments and about, complex, more subtle, complex things that you don't normally think of, you start to get the answer that there was trauma.
Yeah.
Now, you may have heard big T and little t. A lot of people have heard that, but they still don't believe they had any trauma. So big T is those big events that you were describing earlier. And most people haven't been exposed to big traumas, especially in the Western world. But the little T's are the more very subtle attachment-based wounds that we often don't even realize we don't realize they happen to us. So we have needs as children. We have a need to be validated. We have a need for our emotions to be recognized. We have a need for co-regulation so that we can learn to self-regulate. If we haven't had co-regulation, we haven't had a parent who was able to co-regulate with us because they were stuck. Maybe they were emotionally disconnected. Maybe they just didn't have the emotional resources to soothe themselves. So they weren't able to help you soothe yourself when you were disappointed or when you were sad. We have a need for autonomy. We have a need to be able to individuate. So trauma can not just be like love, but it can be too much love. So that was actually my experience. I was an only child. I was wrapped up in cotton wool. I wasn't really allowed to become my own person without consequences. I mean, I did quite a rebel, so I did try and become my own person, but my father went incredibly cold on me and completely disconnected from me. So That was very confusing. And I've only, well, probably within the last 5 years, recognized that as a trauma. So that's called enmeshment, when you're enmeshed with your family. And that can be very cultural as well. You see that in different cultures. You see that in some Middle Eastern cultures and some Eastern European cultures and Asian cultures, Mediterranean cultures. Family is everything, and the loyalty binds and all of that. And this is a really sensitive subject, but these loyalty binds can keep people very entrenched in the family system that's toxic. Mm-hmm. That's trauma. That's traumatic, because menopause asks us to individuate. It asks us to become authentic, right? That's the metamorphosis. But if we have these really strong loyalty binds to a family system or a religious system that doesn't feel quite us, then menopause is going to show that. Menopause is going to show that there's something wrong. I mean, for me, I had anxiety, crippling anxiety on my 40th birthday. I'd organized this massive party. I had panic attack after panic attack after panic attack. I fainted. I had to go home. Yeah, I had no idea what was underneath that. That was the beginning of the perimenopausal journey. Absolutely no clue whatsoever. This was before I was a therapist. I was a singing teacher. And yeah, I was just so at the start of my journey, and I just had no idea what was causing this anxiety. But of course, when you peel back the layers, you see all the patterns, and this is what complex trauma is. It's a pattern. It's an attachment pattern. And when you start becoming good at pattern recognition, which actually menopause helps us with as well, you start to see where it all went a bit wonky, where you didn't get your needs met. We have the need, going back to what I was saying, we have the need for emotional validation. We have a need for autonomy and individuation. We have a need for stability and predictability. So if our childhood home was a bit chaotic, I mean, needless to say, if you had alcoholic parents, then it's going to be pretty chaotic. But also if you had parents that were really disconnected and just kind of like, I worked with someone that had really kind of hippie parents, and they were allowed to run feral, which you might think, well, that's quite a good idea. Let the kids find their own sense of self. Yes, but it also, the kids needed some parameters in order for them to feel safe, and in order for them to, because you can only individuate when you have a grounding of stability. So those are the ones I can think of off the top of my head. I think there are more, but I think so many women really, really struggle with this level of denial that, well, that's how it was for everyone, right? Yes, that's how it was for everyone, but it doesn't mean it's right.
Or the other thing is, like, I'm very similar to you in 41 in just having crippling anxiety and nightmares and like, I just didn't know what was happening. But I came from a home where my mom was always sick and my dad was angry. So I had no, right? Like, I just never knew. And I did discover that in therapy in the next couple of years. But I had also attracted always partners that were unstable. So I was in a relationship with an alcoholic. So it's like a double whammy, right? Because you have this stuff from your childhood, but I had attracted someone that was going to keep me in that state of instability with his drinking. So it's all just pieces that come back when you're looking onto it. But when you're in the middle of it, it's so destabilizing. Like, I really worry about people when they're going through that kind of like, it's almost like a fracture, right? It's
a psyche fracture. Yeah, you're right. You don't know who you are anymore. You have to break open, and if you've got a good support system around you with work, family, friends, that sort of thing, that can be absolute gold. To have that scaffolding around you while you break open, that will support your metamorphosis. But if you don't, that's where we end up with coping strategies. That's what, where we start to need the antidepressants, the the anti-anxiety medication, things like that, to really just calm the nervous system down so that we can get out of the quicksand onto dry land, to do some of the excavation, to do some of the work. I'm a big believer in drugs. Like, take the drugs if you need the drugs, but know that there is something else that needs looking at. And what you were saying there about your initial pattern in childhood being repeated, it's like these, I kind of see it as a spiral. It's like an echo that comes back around, like a bit like the Fibonacci sequence. Yeah, we see ourselves like mirrored in circumstances and in other people, and our patterns will reflect back to us, and we can either ignore it and it will come back round again, or we can look at it, or we can look at it and leave it a little bit longer and until we're more resourced to look at it again. But it will come back because life operates in spirals, and you have the primary trauma, which happens in childhood. I mean, I'm not talking here about ancestral stuff, because that's another topic too. But then you have the secondary traumas that are usually the relationships, the friends, the bosses, that will remind us of something that is unresolved in childhood, where we need to, take our power back. And often that is the huge message of menopause. Like, where has your power been leaking? Yeah. And when you get it back, when you reclaim it, my God, are you powerful? Do you feel good? You
feel good. You almost look behind you to think, like, where did that part of me go that would have reacted in this way and is now reacting in this healthy way? Like, it's like something fell off my body. It almost feels like. It's crazy. Yeah. It's a really... Okay, so I really want to talk about hypnosis and how this works and the kind of hypnosis you do and how you get started. Because I still think people are very skeptical about hypnosis. It's like they just don't think it could work the way that it works. And so, yeah, please tell me all about it. First, like, why does it work? Why do you think it works? What's your... Yeah.
It works because it gets you focused. Hypnosis is not magic. Okay, we think it's magic because we have preconceived ideas about what hypnosis is, but I don't even think it's an altered state of consciousness. For some people, it might feel like they're in a trance. For other people, it's just like being engrossed in something. But you're corralling the normal working functions of the brain to focus, to de-inhibit slightly. So you've got your eyes closed, you're less inhibited, you're more connected to your feelings. Your brain's more open to images, to thoughts, to perception changes, to suggestions. And these are all aspects of psychology that happen without us being in a trance. And what we're doing with hypnosis is just we're corralling all those really useful bits to happen all together at once. And we do that through the power of suggestion, really, and through language, and through getting you to visualize and to imagine, walking down steps, or imagining that you've relaxed your eyes so much that they just won't work. Now test it. Try and open your eyes and find that you've relaxed your eyes so much that they just won't work. And so that's really fascinating. It's like, oh my God, I can't open my eyes. And you're making it look like it's involuntary, but it's not. It's just a suggestion that they've adopted the role of a hypnotic subject, and they are collaborating in this dynamic process. So if you've got someone that can collaborate well, hypnosis will be easy. If you've got someone that's really rebellious and defiant and slightly narcissistic, you might have trouble getting them to surrender some of that over to you. So that's really, I think, how some people can do it and some people can't do it. But it's nothing scary. It can feel a bit different at first. And I get my clients to practice hypnosis with me. So before I go into the deep RTT session, which I'll talk about that in a minute, I will usually tend to do a hypnotic skills training session where I'll gradually help you to just feel really comfortable in hypnosis. And we'll play with some hypnotic phenomena like, your arm raising, or magnets, thinking that you've got magnets in the palms of your hands and they're coming together, or feeling like you've got a helium balloon tied to your arm and you're going up and away. But even the idea of you are relaxing is a hypnotic suggestion and is a hypnotic phenomena, because, just by saying to someone you're relaxing, you're going deeper, and they do, that's a hypnotic phenomena in and of itself. You don't have to be relaxed to be in hypnosis. You can be watching a film, it's just like being engrossed in something. Like you are now listening to me, you're in a kind of hypnotic state. And anyone listening to this podcast now, if you're, sorry to break the spell, but you might have been listening to this conversation to the exclusion of all else. You might be walking down the street and cars are going past, dogs are going past, other people are going past, but you don't really tune into them. You're more tuned into this conversation or whatever, because it's meaningful to you. So you tune into whatever's meaningful to you.
Yeah.
You tune out. If it's not meaningful to you, you're going to tune out. It's like watching a really boring film. You just tune out.
And I wonder if the opposition to it goes back to this belief that, this is a physical problem that I'm having, menopause. And so how, you're trying to say it's all in my head. And I don't know, it seems to me that it just speaks to how powerful the mind is, that you can use the mind to impact the physiology. You just said if you focus on a symptom, you can get a symptom. So can you just talk a little bit about that part of it? Because I still don't think people believe this, that what you put your attention on grows. And so
it's huge. It's huge. I mean, there was a clinical trial done, I think in 2025 about hot flushes. It might have been, was it Gary Elkin?
Yeah. Yeah. He's done all of the research.
Yeah. So, this idea that so I know there's an argument, isn't there, on social media and Instagram, are you saying it's all in my head?
Anytime they talk about cognitive behavioral therapy, which was previously the gold standard non-hormonal, and then hypnosis now has been shown to be as effective. So anytime these two are discussed, it gets this rage reaction from people. And I guess I know why, but I don't think they really understand.
Yeah, we're not saying that it's all in your head. We're saying that your perspective is really powerful. Like, I'm not bypassing anyone's physical lived experience. Hot flushes are horrible. I get them a lot and they are horrible. Anxiety is horrible. And if someone said it's all in your head, that would really piss me off, because it's not. My lived experience is my experience. However, there's a line, there's a threshold that we cross into powerlessness if we don't start to acknowledge our part to play in perhaps the escalation or the escalation of how we might be compounding our systems. And I think we just need to separate these two ideas so that they're not like treated as one idea. It's like, yes, your lived experience matters. We validate that. It's absolutely true. But also let's turn our perspective and perhaps notice where something else might be true as well, because two things can be true at once. It depends which way you look at it, right? So, it's just adopting that curiosity to notice our own involvement in our own lived experience alongside of all the external things too. And I think that's really empowering. Because it's like, well, there's something that I can do here. I can learn about myself. So I like this idea of skills training. I love the idea that exercise is not me just in the gym lifting weights. It's skills training. I'm learning how to move my body in a different way. Yeah. Same with our mind. We can skills train with our mind. We can do neurobics. We can see things differently. And it doesn't take much energy or time to do that. You just got to know how to do it and what to do and when to do it. You can do it washing up. You can do it in the shower. You can do it while you're driving your car. You don't have to have an awful lot of extra time in your day to try these things. So I think it's just like being curious and knowing what else is out there, getting the help that you need if that's available to you, and taking that first step into a world that perhaps you haven't been down before. I think for a lot of people, it can feel like a rabbit hole that they don't want to open, because it can feel like they know that there's a lot of stuff under the surface. And they feel that if they go there, it's like this never-ending spiral into this deep, dark, horrid world. And it doesn't have to be like that. It can be enjoyable. It can be re-enlivening, reawakening, transformational. Again, it's the spin that you put on it.
Yeah. So
like, you're a journalist, you can spin things anyway, right?
Oh my gosh, Sally, I could write an article, anything anyway. I wish there was a reality show where I could do that. I would win with all my experience. Well, you're supposed to acknowledge all of the angles, but that doesn't happen too much anymore in the world. No, yeah, you're supposed to talk to someone who's for something, and then you're like, say, for every article about hormone therapy, the way I was raised, the way journalism is normally practiced, is you would speak to all sorts of people about it. You wouldn't speak to a doctor who worked for a hormone therapy company and call it a day on your article.
That's why your podcast is so good.
Yeah, that would have not been acceptable back in my early newspaper days. So walk me through when someone comes in and they've got, whatever, the it's trauma. They've got trauma. It's nothing crazy and complex, but they're scared, but they've found their way to you. How does it start to unfold? Because you do a special kind of the rapid transformational therapy with Marisa Peer. I've actually been able to meet Marisa Peer a couple of times. So she's based in Dubai now. And I attended a day session with her one time, and it was transformational for me. Just this one day session. She's amazing. And her voice is absolutely hypnotic.
Yeah.
Yeah. But just so walk me through that process and what sort of starts to happen and how long you have to do it for.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, as you say, it's called RTT, which stands for Rapid Transformational Therapy. And Marissa has basically distilled down into one process all of these evidence-based practices that on their own would take ages. So someone comes in, and if they're menopausal, they might be presenting with low confidence. I just don't feel myself. And so I would do a long consultation. I do an assessment now, because I'm starting to do things slightly differently, but I do a long assessment to just make sure there are no red flags. But then in the RTT session, we do pop someone into hypnosis, then we do regression. Okay, so I've got an idea of the underlying, how do you call it? Well, I ask someone, what do you want to let go of? So they'll say, I'm here today to let go of low self-esteem. Okay, so we regress to the first time you might have picked up this low self-esteem. So you ask them to go back, years, weeks, days, months of peeling away from your body. And then you click your fingers. Right now, you're in that scene. Is it daytime or nighttime? And you get them to describe where they are, how old they are, what they're seeing, feeling, experiencing. And as they talk as if they are that younger version of them. So it's like, be the 5-year-old. Okay, I'm 5 years old and I'm seeing often nothing. Okay, interesting. Okay, so what are you feeling? I'm feeling alone. I'm feeling disconnected. There's no one here. Mummy's at work. Daddy's at work. I have to look after my little brother, but I'm only 5. That sort of thing. So these scenes might come up. Often nothing comes up, and then we have to dig a little deeper. We have to excavate more around feelings rather than thoughts or images. I'm very skilled now at getting to the root, even if someone has no idea, even if someone says, I have no memory of my childhood. I'm like, okay, it's in there. It's in the body. It might not be in the mind. And in fact, if someone says I have no memory of my childhood, I'm like, okay, there's something there, but it's in the body. It will be in the body as an implicit memory. Memories that are quite traumatic can be implied more than what's the opposite of implied?
Overt.
Yeah. They'll be quieter, they'll be subtler, and that will usually be indicative of a freeze response as well. So I'm trauma informed, so I work in that paradigm of the fight, flight, freeze, fawn trauma response. And usually someone that doesn't have any clear memories will likely be in that freeze state. So we have to approach it carefully, we have to approach it slowly. And on the other end of the spectrum, you might get someone in the flight response. I'm a flight type, where it's like downloading 5,000 terabytes a second, and you have to kind of put the brakes on a little bit. So we do a lot of excavation and a lot of putting yourself in the shoes of the younger version of you to see through her own eyes or their own eyes or his own eyes, whatever. Because trauma, especially complex trauma, those younger parts of you get frozen in time. They get sort of suspended in the ether. And that's what creates these cognitive distortions, these energetic distortions, these distortions in thinking and feeling. And so you have to kind of go to those parts and bring them back into the present. It's energy work. We're doing energy work, but we're doing it using the imagination, using the thoughts, the feelings, the lived experience. We do lots of different interventions in an RTT session. That's just one of them. We do a lot of validating. There's a lot of attuning, there's a lot of meaning making, there's a lot of making sense of why you are the way that you are. And there's a lot of reclaiming of power. We use powerful language, powerful metaphor, powerful questioning. I might step in and say something like, well, who have you given the power away to then? And then you get the penny drop moment. I've been giving it away to my brother my whole life, or my father. I didn't realize I was still giving my power away to my parents. I'm 55 and here I am still attached to my parents. And it's like, okay, well, we're going to stop that now. So you might have a dialogue with the parent, and you might say within that imaginary dialogue, this is all in the imaginal realm. You might say something like, I'm giving this back to you now. So it's, we do parts therapy, we do inner child work, we do imagery repatterning. There's a lot we can do in 3 hours. It's a 3-hour session, and I will create a recording for someone very bespoke to them that they then listen to. It's a 20-minute recording that they listen to every day for 30 days after their treatment to reorientate, repattern, rewire the perspective. And then you get, because you've changed the operating system, everything underneath that starts to settle. So we're not working on symptoms per se. We're working on perspective, orientation, and patterns. Sometimes we work on symptoms directly. Sometimes I do go to symptoms directly with a little bit of CBT, either before or after their RTT session. But I like to sort of have this multimodal approach, because not everyone is the same. Everyone requires a different type of attunement, a different tool, a different intervention. So I create a treatment plan for someone, and that might be over 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. And often it will change. We have an idea of what we want at the beginning or how we might get there, but we can't see the entire lay of the land from way out. You kind of got to get closer to see, there's a hill over there, there's a roadblock over there, we need to address that. So there's partly we're addressing it on the horizon with that perspective, and then partly addressing it in real time. So it's flexible, but also fairly planned as well.
And it's not an either or. It's not an either or with hormone therapy. It's definitely an add-on. It's definitely something that you can consider doing. Yes. You don't have to choose. You don't have to choose one or the other.
No, you really don't. It's not binary. The more I do this work, you probably find this as well, like the more people you talk to, the more your perspective just gets wider and wider and wider, and the more you can see different perspectives, and also see when someone's stuck in a very limited perspective, and that can be quite annoying.
Do you, with your experience working with women, do you think that the trauma and this nervous system sort of dysregulation that is developed, do you think that is what is making perimenopause worse for a lot of people? Is that one of the culprits? Because I think it's more than one thing, but it's so different for everyone.
Yeah, from my experience, it was. I think the hormonal instability feels like that's happening up here on a surface level. For me, this is how I see it, that you've got this hormonal instability, the boat's starting to be rocked. And so this is how it was for me, because I'd never had to do any sort of nervous system regulation before. All this instability was happening, but I didn't know how to manage it. So I pathologized it. And that was the easiest thing for me to do, to go, I have anxiety. I have clinical anxiety. I have panic disorder. I have metabolic syndrome or whatever. Or I have perimenopause. It's like, yeah, okay, all this is going on, but it's like it's creating these cracks in the land. And so this fire is starting to come up, but we have no idea how to firefight. And so it was just, I just had to kind of learn how to be with it all. And it was like a baptism of fire, and just a lot of laying in bed doing nothing, a lot of crawling under the pillow and just saying no to everything.
A lot of tears.
I figured it out.
Yeah,
a lot of tears, a lot of spitting my dummy out, a lot of
That's a pacifier for anyone who's in the US. The dummy is a pacifier. It's one of my favorite ones. So great. I get it. I get what it means. It's so cute. Okay, you're on the other side of menopause. Do you have any words of hope for women who are struggling right now?
I mean, I would say don't ignore the deep work. Like, really don't. Because if you're the other side of menopause and you're still struggling with menopausal symptoms, or you're still feeling like there's a lot of anxiety, or you don't know who you are yet, you haven't sort of, that new identity hasn't started forming, get to work on the stuff. Find someone, even if it's a friend, it doesn't have to be a therapist. Books are incredible. Like, books have been my absolute saving grace through this period. Read as much as you can, listen to podcasts, but slight caveat here, we can use them as dopamine fixes. So just because you've read a book, it doesn't mean you've done the work. Yeah. You might have had a perspective shift, which is great. It can be amazing, and it can definitely help to change the landscape, but there's nothing more that we need than attunement. I really do think that when you attune, when someone is holding space for you, like you're holding space for me right now, it feels absolutely amazing. Like, I love the fact that someone is listening to me. My nervous system just feels, I feel seen, I feel heard, I feel like I matter.
You do.
Oh, thank you. And that's the beauty of women coming together in circle, or whether that's a therapy session or a holding space session. In fact, I've had this idea at the moment of a new membership called Becoming, and it is literally space, a circle where we just attune to each other. We hold space for what is becoming in the moment. And I really do think that's mainly what we need at this stage, not necessarily all these interventions, because I think so many women are trying so many different things but still finding that they don't feel good. Yeah. It's like, it's because we need to go deeper into that attunement level, and often that is the thing that's been bypassed when we were children. Yeah. Attunement from the parent to the child for your sadness, for your disappointment, for your fear, rather than you've got nothing to be scared of, maybe tell me about your fear. I understand your fear. Under the circumstances, I can absolutely see why you would be fearful right now. Where do you feel that in your body? Okay, let's just stay with that feeling for a little bit. Breathe into it, allow it to be there. Let me know when it feels like it's passing.
It's so beautiful. It's that you just said, maybe we didn't have that when we were younger, and this is the way we can give it to ourselves now. And it's learning how to do that. It's working with someone or doing whatever you can. And the work you're talking about, it sounds overwhelming, but bit by bit, it's just bit by bit and step by step, because it just does come to you if you just keep moving forward, right? Like, and we're on the other side, and now it makes a lot of sense. But if I had set out to do everything I did at the beginning, I don't know whether I would have had that would have been overwhelming to know what I was going to go through. But it is going somewhere good, and each piece gets to the rest if you just seek, I think.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you brought that up, Ann Marie, because, I'm a flight type. I have a tendency to overwhelm people because I'm so enthusiastic and I'm downloading all these terabytes of information and I just want to get it out there. But you are so right. I've been doing this work for 10 years, my menopausal journey. I was on a spiritual path from age 14. So I've been doing this kind of work my whole life. Now, for someone that's just starting, this might feel overwhelming, but you only have to take one brick. I don't know if you've read Will Smith's book. I can't remember the name of it now, but the opening chapter, he talks about lay another brick. So he was very overwhelmed. His dad was a bricklayer, I think, and he used to watch his dad building these walls. And he used to get really weirded out by the fact that you could start with nothing and then end up with this massive wall. And he said to his dad, how do you end up with this huge wall? And his dad said, every day you just lay another brick, you lay another brick, and you just focus on the brick. You don't focus on the wall, you focus on the brick. And that's all you need to do with this journey.
Also, the beautiful Anne Lamott, she's a writer, the beautiful story of her brother who was overwhelmed by a school project on birds, and he'd left it till the night before. And he was sort of sitting at the table and his shoulders were down, and his dad came over and said, bird by bird, buddy, bird by bird. And it's just that's how you do it, right? Ironically, Will Smith, who's been canceled, he was pivotal to me realizing of the negative soundtrack that was in my head and changing it. Just watching his videos every single day on Instagram and the way he spoke. So when people trash talk Will Smith, I'm like, hey, there wasn't a lot of that around 6-7 years ago. Now it's everywhere all the time, but
yeah, every front has a back, right? It's not all bad. Yeah.
Well, listen, thank you so much for telling us all about this. Can people work with you remotely?
Yeah. Most of my work is done via Zoom, to be honest. I mean, I do work with people in Brighton in the UK, but increasingly it's international. Yeah.
We'll put all the information to get a hold of Sally in the show notes. And just thank you for going through this with me. It was just the conversation that I knew it would be. It's so good to talk to you.
Thank you so much, Ann Marie. It's an absolute pleasure.